All right. So, welcome, Thomas Hawtin. Good to see you, my friend. It's been a while, and I'm so thankful and grateful that you could be with me here today and going through some of this stuff. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well. Thanks for having me, Barney. Just for the viewers, me and Barney go way back. I think earlier you said we it's been 11 years since we had a kind of proper conversation. I think now and again, like drip fed on kind of online and that. But I
That's
believe
right. Yeah.
college went to college together. So yeah, thanks for calling me up and yeah,
Yeah.
looking forward to it.
Yeah. So, a little background about how we met. We were doing the BTEC National Diploma in Music at Northampton College back in the heyday. And yeah, we got on really well. We were in a few different college bands together, in college and outside of college as well. So we did the whole Voodoo Shakedown, fond memories of that, and
Yeah,
Bone Sparrow, and all sorts of other weird little projects in between as well. Good
yeah,
times.
yeah, really good times, man. Um, and yeah, it feels so long ago, and yet it's only yesterday. It's
Yeah,
great. It's
yeah.
great. But I bet yeah, I'm sure like just following you, Barney, and what you're doing online, like just like there's growth and there's progression, and
Mhm.
I feel like with myself as well, but also like I still feel like a big kid, mate. I still feel like as deludedly naive that that I'm doing creative things as I did back then, and I love it. And it's yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's also part of your genius, like from standing here on the outside and looking in, is that you do have this like childlike wonder in everything you do. You kind of throw yourself into what you're doing, kind of like you surrender to whatever you're making in the moment, whether that's like being on stage or in your writing or just in your conversations. You're so animated and so what looks like so free, but maybe that's not how it feels on the inside, but that's how it looks from the outside.
Well, that's cool. That's good. That's some nice feedback there. Yeah. Yes, I guess it's just one of those things that yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I just throwing myself into stuff,
Mm,
and more recently with things like the dressing up that we're doing on stage, it just feels like a natural kind of extension, or an unnatural extension maybe, but an extension of kind of the self and kind of just a different way to express
mm,
myself through that. But
yeah.
yeah. Just I'm someone that one of the things I actually have written up here and I keep up here. I have a few little notes that when you're kind of like struggling to do whatever and you kind of look up, and one of them is stay curious, and it is something that
Mm,
I've always tried to kind of maintain. And as you can probably see from behind me,
hmm.
and there's more down here, there's more down there. I've had a bit of a splurge this year as well. I've got about 1,200 books. I'm obsessed. I'm a biblio file, I guess.
Yeah. Hmm.
Confession time, yeah. That'll be the tagline. I'm kind of obsessed with books, and I haven't read all of them, but I'd like to dip in and out of them now and again. I recently bought all of these dictionaries, Barney. I've got a lot of them are Penguin dictionaries. I've got the Dictionary of Law,
Hmm.
Building, Dictionary of Mathematics,
Hmm.
Dictionary of the Third Reich, Dictionary of Chemistry, Science, Punctuation, Saints, Marketing, and I found them all on
Mm.
World of Books. Actually, I'm gonna
Yeah.
advertise them because they're great, and they were so cheap that I ended up just ended up, I got so excited and just bought all of them. They come in a massive sack, and I've put them neatly on my shelf. I've gone into them, and now and again I go in and I find something and go, oh yeah, the botany. You know, I've not heard about that flower before. Write that in my notebook, and so I'm
Hmm.
always kind of like looking to take things and do things. And
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
And
That's not
that's
answering any question, is it? I'm just going off on a tangent, but that's
no,
kind of
but
how.
that's beautiful. That leads me to my next point. Really, is that you've always seemed like words are really your thing. Like you are a great performer and you're a great musician, but you seem fascinated with words. Is that something that has kind of always been there? It's been a big interest of like going into words, what they mean, how they're making connections in your brain of different subjects and how you can play with those.
Yes, yeah, 100%. That when I started, so kind of my kind of a real potted history of my kind of creative journey, if you like. I got a guitar at around 15, 16, and then found that that was my thing. And okay, music is my thing. I want to
Mm,
write music. And so listening to more music from that, listening to like people like David Bowie, Nick Cave, Tom Waits, Leonard Cohen,
mm,
um, a lot of people who are very lyrically driven.
Yeah.
And then through after we went to college together and did music, I then went to university to do creative writing.
Hmm.
So through those kind of very lyric driven songwriters,
Mm.
I kind of found my way into kind of poetry, into books, and I went to university not really having read that many books, being like, oh yeah, I want to be creative writing, yeah. Which is again, it would probably a very good kind of microcosm for a lot of things I do. Like, yeah, I'm going to do this now. It's like, oh yeah, I should probably learn a bit.
Yeah.
But again, the naivety again maybe is a good thing sometimes to kind of come in with an alien's like or an outsider's view and not being too astute in things. That's a good excuse as well, isn't it, to give to go, oh yeah, no, I'm not going to study too hard because. But I finished uni looking at poetry and stories and stuff like that, and more recently, kind of going mad writing some plays. I'm always writing something. I've got 3 different plays on the go, and I know deep down that they're not all going to be finished because long form I'm not very good at. Short form songs, great.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what happens is I got like a Google a G drive full of ideas and stories and poems and things that some of them are completed but will never see the light of day, and others are just incomplete. But it's a great like recyclable like resource to go back and look at them and go, oh, I need some lyrics. And I've got an idea. Oh, okay, great. So some of the songs on the new album, you like started life as poems, and you just kind of have to shift a few things around. And
yeah,
so that's always good. Things just kind of, I'm not unsatisfied if things don't see the light of day or are kind of completed, because I know that I'll be able to kind of channel them through the next kind of idea, I guess. Yeah.
and that's something that I think a lot of people get hung up on, is when they sit down to create something, there's can be this belief of like, well, now I'm going to sit and write until it's finished, and then it will be something. It will be something that I need to do something with, and it needs to be finished and check all these boxes. But actually, like, it's so much more liquid than that. Like you say, you make one thing, and I've happened to me before. Like, you make something, and it's like, yeah, okay, I made it, and then it kind of sits there for like 5, 6, 7 years, and suddenly it's like, oh, now I know why I made this. Now now I have the knowledge. Now I have the experience to actually see the importance of it and transform it into something else. Like alchemy.
Definitely. What did you say? Like alchemy? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, alchemy.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, very much so. And with that, you know, sort of going back to the words thing as well. Sometimes there will be some writing that I've written or songs, and not fully understanding what the song or what that idea is about, but there's a vibe, there's a thing, and revisiting it years later and going, oh, now I'm changed. I'm bringing a different kind of meaning to it. So yeah, but I'm always experimenting with stuff, Barney. I'm always kind of putting words together and thinking, and got notebooks of experiments, I guess, really. Of a lot of it's crap, and I'm sure it's crap. But sometimes there'll be a little nugget of a sentence that I've never heard. For example, the song from Osiris at the Large Hadron Collider, which is one of the singles we released from Erotic, Secrets of Pompeii, the band's album, debut album, which has just come out.
Osiris at the Large Hadron Collider. Osiris at the Large Hadron Collider. Osiris at the Large Hadron Collider. Yes, I was Osiris at the Large Hadron Collider.
Osiris at the Large Hadron Collider. The song started from the title. And the title came from, I don't know, I read some article a while back about someone doing some kind of weird ritual outside the Large Hadron Collider, and it's essentially the god of the dead. I think that was where it stemmed from years and years and years ago. And stumbling back upon that title, going, that's a song. That's a song. What does it mean? Well, I didn't know until we kind of finished putting it all together, and then looking back and going, oh yeah, you've got death, you've got science, and you've got the kind of vying for power and there's loads of things kind of in that don't try to kind of preach too much about what the songs are about.
Yeah.
And in this day and age of social media, you've got to go, oh, it's about this, and people want to know stuff. But we definitely try to write songs that are kind of, there's several different strands and things and levels and ambiguity and stuff in there, so that people can kind of draw a few different things out. But yeah.
So, how important is to you to be understood with what you mean, with what you're putting into the stuff? Is it important to you that it's received on some level, or are you happy that people take their own meanings from things and experience it individually?
Yeah, yeah, the latter for sure.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think if I was too hung up on the first, on the former, on kind of wanting to get a message across,
mm.
I'd probably be less ambiguous. I'd be a bit
Yeah.
more kind of on the nose. Although I wouldn't say that that's prescriptive, and I wouldn't say that that's kind of every time. So
Mm,
there are certain songs, there are certain things that are a bit more kind of maybe obvious or
mm,
um yeah, but I think overall, maybe, yeah, definitely the latter.
mhm. Nice. I want to talk a little bit now about your performance. So, like, yeah, you guys have just released the album, and you just had the launch party last week, right? And you're about to go on tour.
Yeah,
So, obviously, it's a big difference of like the writing and the words and creating the kind of narrative of your artwork, but like performing it is like another beast. So,
yes,
and from what I've seen is that you've always been a very expressive performer. You love performing. You really enjoy being given that spotlight, stepping into it, and like performing. Can you talk a little bit about like what motivates you to get up on stage? What motivates you to keep expressing yourself in
yeah.
that way on stage?
Um, like with no doubt, part of that is being a bit of a show off, being a
Yeah.
bit of like it's on me, you know. I like to, so the attention is fun, and
Mm,
being able to kind of dress up and kind of put on a bit of a mask and kind of
mm,
entertain in that way. It
mm,
seems to me like a great way to live your life. Yeah, I enjoy it. It is. I enjoy it. We kind of joke in the band that well, I joke in the band anyway. Okay? None of them laugh about it, but that we spend a lot of our time kind of behind the scenes doing all the behind the scenesy bits
mm,
that aren't creative. Like the admin side and when you're on tour, you're a lot driving around and the waiting and the setting up and the stuff that people don't really want to talk about because it's not the glamorous side of it.
yeah.
But when you're on stage for half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever, that is kind of what we live for. We
Mm,
kind of come on, and it's like that is you're reminded after kind of the whole kind of the grind of doing all the bits to kind of get it into place and all of that. It's almost like it's a release. It's a release to kind of, oh yeah, this is why we do this. Yeah, it's because it's just a great feeling. I mean, it's there
mm,
must be. I'm quite sure it's like serotonin or whatever
mm,
kick you're getting from it. My nan has always said that I remind her of her dad,
mm.
Dennis Hawtin, because he used to do's. He'd get up on the table and start dancing at the end of the night, and that's where I got my surname from. So my stage name is Hawtin, and it's taken
Mhm.
from him, from Dennis Hawtin. But so there must be something in the blood, right? There must be
Yeah.
to do that. But you're right; it is very different from the writing side, which would be
Yeah.
a lot of the time, if I'm writing lyrics, very much in this room, kind of sat down or maybe at a coffee shop or wherever,
Mhm.
collecting different ideas or sitting down and trying to kind of craft something.
Mm.
Whereas there is something more, um, I want to say visceral. Is that the word I'm looking? I guess visceral and immediate and kind of primitive, almost maybe shamanistic of being on stage, and especially the way that I want to do it anyway. There's
Yeah.
kind of channeling something and kind of putting something out. Yeah, it's kind of like high energy, whereas the writing side is like the complete opposite. It is like the kind of the shadow self or the yin and yang and the kind of all of that. So it scratches two itches because I'm not always an extrovert, believe it or not. I guess like a lot of people, we're kind of multifaceted, and I think
Yeah.
sometimes I'd rather be on my own,
Mm.
and other times and put that spotlight on, boy.
Everybody look at me.
Yeah, yeah. And the guys are great as well in the band. They're all top at what they do. Tom, Jules, Jake, and Sean, and maybe I do us all a disservice by saying there's no craft in it, because there is craft. Obviously, there's stagecraft, and we do work hard rehearsing, making sure the gaps are tight, the transitions are happening. We all know what we're doing. But yeah, there's something definitely intrinsic. There's something deep in me that that wants to get on stage, and that also just wants to create. That wants to create stuff. And I'm unsatisfied if I haven't created in a few days. If I haven't written anything, and that could be anything. Just for doing a little writing experiment, or watching an interesting documentary on YouTube and kind of making some notes about that, or kind of whatever, lyrics, music, etc. I can get angsty. I get a bit like, I feel unfulfilled. If I,
Do you feel like there's stuff that's like piling up inside you? If it's not, it's kind of getting a bit like messy inside you.
Maybe I've not thought of it like that before. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it could well be. I'm a big list maker. Got lists. I've got lots of lists of everywhere's lists.
That doesn't surprise me.
And I have to list my thoughts down. I have to list my to-dos as well, because there's always so many to-dos, and there's always and I will forget. So it's like lists and lists of to-dos, and then sometimes on the list of to-dos is to rewrite the list of to-dos from all of the other lists. So there is a kind of there's definitely I find a pleasure in making lists and in writing to-do lists. And I guess I could spend a lot of time putting a to-do list together, which I did early today, and then labeling it all out and going, this is what I'll do on Thursday, and so I'll do on Wednesday. And I never, the days don't really matter, because they never get done on those days. They always get moved across. And this is what I'm going to do for the band, and this is what I'm going to do for this play idea. And then great, and I'll print it off at work, and I'm going to fold it there, and then I'll go, oh, great relief. I won't have to do anything now. I've kind of organised my thoughts, I guess. My cushion is just falling down. Apologies. The mad flailing. But yes, maybe there is something. If you haven't got that thing out, it definitely feels like there's an itch that hasn't been scratched, for sure.
Yeah,
sure. And we've recently signed to a booking agent. I say recently, it's over a year now. So Marshall Amps. They've got a live agency, and they book us the gigs, which is wonderful. We went up to Milton Keynes to kind of visit, and they like wooed us and that. But one of their things that is kind of, you don't want to be playing too many gigs. So we play less gigs, but much better gigs. So we're not kind of oversaturating ourselves in Bristol and all that kind of thing. And it's great, and it's the right path for us. For sure. And they've been really good. But now and again, we have kind of been like, oh, it's been a few months and we've not played live. And that's kind of what we put the band together to do. And so we did actually bring that up with our chap from Marshall, and he was like, oh, no worries, I'll book you some more gigs. So we've got like after this mini tour, if you like, this first leg of the tour, which is coming up, we've done Bristol, so it's Nottingham, Norwich and London. UK tour. In May, we've got another 14 dates, most of which are back to back. And we're like, yeah, that's what we wanted to do. Yeah, thanks. that's perfect.
Yeah, that itch is going to be scratched.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're going to be Red Raw. Along with that, we've got some European dates, but I can't say much more. Later in the year. So we've got like really, really exciting things. So the positives way outweigh any negatives, and there aren't really any negatives. The negatives are just having that little itch going, oh, I want to play live, But yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's super exciting, and
really
happy for you guys. You're
Thank you, man.
Going to be out there getting seen. That's awesome.
Yeah, and this project has been 2018 when we put it together. Bunch of demos on Ableton, very similar to Voodoo Shakedown when we got together, kind of creating demos and kind of got the band together. Gone through a few different lineup changes. Of course, 2020, the pandemic was a big change, no gigging, etc. But we went through a couple of lineup changes in that year. One of us, Tom in the band, who plays Tom Hackwell, who's synth and guitar, also runs a studio, Happy Days. And we kind of kept social distancing and all that. And we went in the studio and we recorded what was to become the EP, Trash Jugular, which came out at the end of 2020, I think, too. The years are all blur now, aren't they? Yeah, end of 2020. So yeah, just and from that, we've kind of Side to Marshall. They've got some great gigs. Last year we did Boomtown and Bearded Theory festivals, and we supported Electric Six at a couple of a few of theirs rather, three of the O2 Academy.
And I know that is a big deal for you because you were a big fan back in the day.
I was, yeah. And do you know what's great? I think it was the 20th anniversary. It was the 20th anniversary of their first album, Fire, and that was one that I had, and I printed all the tabs off and learned. You know, I remember printing off from my parents' computer and learning it, and it was an influential album for me at the time. And I think they get a bad rep, or they get kind of seen as this kind of comedy band, but those guys are workhorses, man. They release an album almost every year, if not more, and they tour constantly. And they were great guys. They were great guys behind the scenes. They were really chill. And it was, a great opportunity. And their crowd, my God, their audience were just so lovely. It was really good.
You know, there's an overlap there of your styles and your kind of like your how you're presented, because there is a element of the macabre and also of the humor and of this like flamboyant, expressive performance. So like they're the perfect kind of audience to. Yeah,
definitely. And I felt they're a really open-minded audience. Yeah. Which was great. I think, you know, Electric Six are quite an eclectic band. That one song is rock, you know, there's a lot of disco rock and stuff, but then they've done a lot. If you look back at their catalogue, and I think, they're some really, really interesting and just lovely people that wanted to talk and have photos taken at the merch stand, and it was like, and things signed, and we're like, okay, yeah, sure, new thing, but like we're happy to, you know, if you're happy, we're happy. So and that is something that I get excited about as well, is the connecting with people, connecting with the fans, but having those conversations and sharing things. And I guess deep down, if you were to analyze it as well, there is that kind of, if there's for me, I'm the singer on stage, on the front man, and there's a kind of a need for attention or whatever. So when people come up and say that was really great, I'm kind of what's the word? Not verified. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm kind of
confirmed. Yeah.
Kind of go, oh great, yeah, like it all makes sense. But it's been a wild ride. Yeah. It's been a wild ride. It's been really good. And we've just got more things in the pipeline, and loving it. And it is hard work. I'm not going to, I mean, part of this conversation, I think, is to be kind of honest, isn't it? And all of us have been kind of nose to the grind and kind of been doing a lot of the back end stuff that people don't really talk about, like the admin side and the emailing out and the designing of and the merch and kind of the finances and all of this kind of stuff that I won't go in too much into, because people probably aren't that interested in the kind of dull stuff, but it's part of it. And we haven't got a manager or anything like that, so we've started to look into HMRC and kind of having to sign on as self-employed, and pay our taxes and things. But it's just exciting, and again, Barney, really grateful to talk to you, because so Barney did send me some kind of loose questions that we were going to be kind of looking at, and it was a good chance to kind of reflect on the past few years, because my head is in right. Next week is the tour, got a rehearsal at the start of next week, and we've got a few things to go through from the last show that we just want to tighten up. And then April, we're back in the studio. We've got some new songs that we're doing, so I've got some lyrics to kind of work out for that. And then later on, we've got the Europe tour, we've got some of the festivals, and we've got the May. So just kind of, and then my kind of respite from all that is kind of at the minute like the playwriting. So I'm going, oh God, the band feels a bit more like it's like real work. I'll relax by writing about this seedy medium, this psychic medium who like gets, you know, the spirit world aren't happy that he's been faking it and kind of doing all the and kind of writing that. And then, like I say, that will probably feed into some lyrics down the line. But
awesome. Okay, so apropos of those questions, here's one of those questions. For you, where does your creativity come from? Where do you experience that you get your creative flow from? Is it purely from the mind? Is it a spiritual thing? Is it just from your body? All of the above? Because I know I'll circle back as well when you're talking about you performing. You mentioned that you're channeling something.
Mm,
Something is moving through you. So I just wonder about your perspective of what exactly is happening when you're creating. What kind of process is it? Is it purely human, or is it something spiritual, or what is it to you?
mm. Yes, right. That is a good question. He's a very deep man, this Barney Glanville.
I'll
But
give you a few minutes to mull it over.
I think um so you've got the head, the heart, and the spiritual say.
Hmm.
And the head, so for me, there is a mystery to it. There is something this when you talk about that when we talk about the head, we're talking about like an intellectual kind of side to it, which is definitely part of it, kind of sitting down and kind of changing words, making sure things rhyme, making meaning, playing with wordplay, a bit of intertextuality with a lot of books and things, kind of taking a line from a book and maybe putting that in or something like that. So that is definitely part of it. The heart, we're talking about like, I guess, it's emotive and an immediate emotional response, I guess. It's something like from the heart, isn't it? And that is something as well that I've experienced, I guess, for sure. And I like what you said about the moving as well. Yeah, yeah. The spiritual thing, there's definitely something enigmatic and prophetic about about the art of creating, whatever that might be. In the past, I've like looked into a lot of different. You talked about alchemy earlier, and I kind of got into a few books about that. Obviously, you name it, you name it. We can play a game later if you like. You name it, and I'll see if I've got a book about it. But alchemy and kind of like magic and that kind of thing, like old school as well as kind of new thoughts about it, chaos magic and things.
Mm.
And the few years back, I was looking into Austin Osman Spare. He was like an artist, like a phenomenal portrait artist, but he also used to do like automatic writing. He was like an occultist as well. In around, I want to say around the, I'll put myself on the spot here, but 1930s, 40s, I think. In this automatic drawing that he did, it would turn up things like in his dreams, and it'd be like chimeras, like demons, and really, really freaky, awesome things. So it was phenomenal portrait artist, and also kind of did this, and it was automatic, so it was kind of like from somewhere else. And he, in one of his pieces of art, he drew something called the death posture, which I really liked, and it was one of his practices. I think I believe that he kind of come up with a lot of his own kind of practices. And part of that kind of that side of magic is that if you're changing your own reality psychologically, then or looking at someone like Alan Moore, he talks about magic is kind of like poetry is magic. If you can kind of convince someone to do something, that's magic. You're using words. Magic comes from that. So it's not necessarily hocus pocus, turn you into a frog, but it's kind of shaping how people think and perceptions. So going back to Austin Osman Spare, the death posture was that to put himself in such a strained position, kind of exhaust himself so much so that he would gain gnosis and gain kind of like higher knowledge and kind of be closer to kind of God, I guess, and mysticism and all of that. And I loved it. So I got one of the bits tattooed on me. And this is from the death posture. There's like a jackal and a vulture and some of the more kind of esoteric kind of symbols and things. And it was something definitely at the start of Erotic Secrets of Pompeii that I would on stage kind of consciously kind of be thinking about this. And although it's not his death posture, it was kind of stealing his idea or pinching it and going, trying to pour and exert myself on stage into not necessarily a state of gnosis, but a state of otherness, I guess, or to kind of deliver the song and touch people in a different way. And I know that's not very kind of well kind of put together, but there was something in there,
Yeah.
And I think, and it's still something that I do, but I guess I'm less kind of conscious of it now because it's more of a natural thing on stage to kind of to do all that. Yeah.
Because it's really interesting, like the different parts where you could make an argument of where it comes from, where the creation happens. Some people who just believe in like the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, and it's just a playful curiosity of something that's happening in that relationship. And others might have a belief that it's something greater than us that's coming through us, like this. The actual act of creation is not ours, it's just happening through us, because like the universe is constantly creating, Mother Nature constantly creating, like all this stuff is constantly unfolding, and plants growing every year, and like that's an act of creation which is happening almost of its own accord. The plant isn't growing. It doesn't have the intention to be and grow, but it's happening because it's a force that's within the cells of the plant. And could be the same with us, is that there's something in us that's like just wanting to come forward. And then others which are purely heart focused, where it's like it's about emotion and it's about what touches you and how you want to connect with others. So you got all these different like kind of schools of thought, which I think they all hold some intrinsic truth to them. And
there's almost like a Venn diagram, I think, maybe. But and like I said, I don't want to be prescriptive because some people might experience their own creativity in different ways. And I would never try and kind of impose what I do. Like I really wouldn't want to do that to anyone. I want to put them through it, but impose kind of my ways. But I think maybe there is a Venn diagram. I've got a book, believe it or not, Barney.
What?
Richard Dawkins. It's called Unweaving the Rainbow, and I've flicked through it a few times. I've not brought myself to read it all the way through because he very much kind of intellectualizes and kind of is a scientific view on creation. I mean, it's probably a book worth getting if you haven't read it, because it does seem quite. But for someone who's creative, I'd much rather read like Jung or something with a bit more kind of mysticism in there, because I find endlessly kind of the endless mystery, I guess. But I get I mean, I understand kind of what Dawkins is doing. It's interesting because he talks about, in fact, what does he talk about? I think he actually analyzes old poems and things, and then talks about like kind of thought process and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, I haven't read it,
but you have it.
But I got it. Got it in the library in the Dewey Decimal System. I've got a couple of Jung books that I love to go through, because I think that kind of stuff's really, when you talk about the conscious and the unconscious, that's definitely something that I think as a creative person, it's good. I was going to say imperative, but again, I wouldn't want to impose that. But it's good to be open-minded about things for sure. And something else actually, just kind of rockets are firing off like constantly. Something else that's just kind of made me think of is through the creative process, kind of becoming more empathetic to people and understanding people and that, because I guess again, like writing plays and that, trying to write from someone else's point of view, you're kind of you need to have that empathy, and it kind of 100% for me has kind of grown a lot. The playwriting side has been something I've been kind of delving into quite a bit. There's a podcast called the Royal Courts Playwright Podcast, which is great. There's a bunch of the first few series are hosted by Simon Stevens, who was a playwright, and then the later episodes I've not got to yet, but there are a couple of other theatre makers who host it, and they interview playwrights, mainly British playwrights, but from all denominations, and it is just really interesting to kind of hear their journeys and kind of see kind of what they've been doing and understanding it, and that's been really, really cool. I've been really enjoying that, and I think for me, as someone who dabbling in the world of playwriting, can take a lot of that and apply it in music, and that's something else I like to go, what they're doing in art, what you're doing in fashion, what you're doing in this, and what can we kind of steal and kind of put into this into music, and maybe nothing will ever be original again, but at least you can kind of keep things spicy and interesting, and putting in different practices and different flavors, for want of a better term, from different from different kind of realms of activity.
Okay, I got a question for you. You touched very briefly on this about learning more about being empathetic to other people. Do you feel like you've had any real big insights or realizations about yourself while you've been creating, like through the creative process? Is there something that you've like uncovered about yourself that otherwise would have remained a mystery?
I think on surface level, it's helped me. This isn't me trying to deflect from a deeper thing. It's just one of the things that's helped me. Through the act of creation, whatever that creating might be, the act of collaboration has been a thing more recently, especially in this band, and the side project that me and Tom in the band do, Faux Hex, as well. I mean, that's when I say collaboration, he very much does the music and I do the words, and then we get in the studio and we help kind of chop the song up and do different bits. And I think I have become more of a collaborator rather than a dictator. Remember those days, Barney? And kind of a better team player, maybe. I've also become a better delegator, and again, that is the same, moving in the same way of going, okay, I'm struggling. I'm being a bit of a control freak here, and I'm struggling to do all these things. Can I pass them out? And the guys have always been good at kind of taking that on.
But I think what you're saying is important, is that like you've learned to different ways of working with other people through work.
Yeah,
it's important.
100%.
Like, you can get stuck in like needing to have ownership of everything, and like, no, I need to do it my way, otherwise it will be wrong, or it's gonna, you can't let go of control. But learning to do that, and that's great.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not on the other side of it. It is something I've become much better at, and we still joke. So if for example, I mean, the songs can turn up in a multitude of ways from different people, but if it's one that I've put together, put a demo and send it to the guys, and it's like, you're playing that part and you're playing that part, and the guys are obviously much better musicians than me, so they're like, jazz it. I'm like, oh yeah, it's not quite how it was on the demo, was it? And then Tom always says, oh, you got demo-itis, like you're just stuck in that, you've listened to the demo so much you think that's it. And of course, 9 times, if not every time out of 10, the finished product is much better, because we've worked together at it, but also it was a demo. It was a rough idea that needed kind of, and I think I'm quite good. I think I'm one of my strengths is kind of putting something together that is good, and that I can give to other people to then make better.
No, I remember you were exactly the same in college as well. We'd be working on something one day, and then we'd all go home, and you'd come back the next day and be like, guys, I've got 3 songs here, you can listen to them now, and you learn this part and this part.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. And another thing as well, Barney, those bands, like, we've been in several bands together. We've been in the 2 or 3 bands now. And those bands and other bands around that time, I would kind of not speak up if I was unhappy about things, and then it ended up coming to a point where it would be like, right, okay, well, that's kind of the natural end for me for this project, whereas other people wouldn't have felt that. And rather than me going, do you know what, I've got a little bit of a niggle here about this, or this song isn't working for me, or can we do, rather than speak about that, I just kind of bottled that up and would be like, right, that's me done. Yeah, it's done, like it's filled up, and I'm off to the next project, kind of like buzzing around, like a social butterfly or whatever. Right, I'm going to do the next thing, and that is something that I've very much been conscious of in the more recent years, and something that I don't do anymore.
So you're kind of more in your integrity, both like creatively, but also like interpersonally, of like being upfront and stuff doesn't feel good, and being honest about it. Yeah,
100%. Yes. And seeing the bigger picture and kind of saying it up front and kind of saying those things. And I think, we formed this band. So I was in my late 20s. I'm 33 now, so I must have been late 20s when we put this band together. And it was kind of, for me, it was like, this is the last hurrah. This is like, we're now kind of in our early 30s. Let's really push this and da-da-da. And it's kind of like, no messing about. From a personal level as well, no messing about in the sense that if I'm not happy, I need to say it, and because otherwise I'll go, right, that's it, I'm done with this band now, and it's like, oh great, right, now I'm like, got to start the project again. And let me tell you, it's starting these projects aren't what they used to be before all the social media and all that. Like, I think we dabbled with a bit of Facebook back in the day, didn't we, in that? But yeah, for sure, I've ended a lot of projects from not speaking my mind. I think not being confident enough to do that, and maybe also not wanting to hurt other people's feelings and certain things like that. So maybe understanding ways how to talk to people rather than just being like, this isn't working, no, it's not good. And the guys in the band in Erotic Secrets are way more tolerant than me on everything. I think they know, they're kind of like, if I'm like, okay, something isn't working, a lot of times I go, okay, cool, well, how about this for an idea? And I'll be like, oh yeah, that was working. Like, oh yeah, it was that easy. And it's one of those things that I kind of build up and worry about in my head. I am a worrier. I am a real worrier. For everything. I'm always worrying. I can go to bed after, if I'm in rehearsal, if something's not quite happened, I can go to bed kind of going, I need to have it like, well, I'm not, that part wasn't working, I have to talk to them about. And every time I talk to everybody about a part, they're just cool, they're like, oh yeah, well, we'll do this. And it's totally within me. Yeah, I know it's bad. Neurotic, I know.
Would you say that's been one of your bigger challenges, is worrying about stuff? And I don't know, would you apply the term anxiety to that, or is it just more like ruminating?
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, I wouldn't, maybe, I wouldn't want to blow it up and say, but yeah, no, I definitely felt anxious. So I guess that is the
ding ding ding.
That's the adjective of the noun. Anxiety. So yes, that definitely, for sure. I've tried stuff in the past, tried a bit of meditation and deep breathing, and that was always all right. But I always convince myself I haven't got enough time. Oh no, I haven't got time to do that. Well, I haven't got time to have 5 minutes of like.
That's the anxiety.
I knew this was going to be a free session. Thank you. Yeah. I can. I mean, I woke up the other morning, literally 2 mornings ago, way before my alarm. And all I could think about was, oh yeah, we're playing Europe later this year. I need to rent a van, and I'm going to be one of the drivers of a van. Hey, I haven't driven a van before. How am I going to be on the other side of the road? And I couldn't get that on my head. And then the alarm went off, and I was like, right, off to work. And then I'd speak to people, like speaking to the guys of the band or people at work who drive vans, and just having a chat. And they're like, oh, well, actually, and after speaking about it, I was like, oh, I feel way more relieved.
Yeah.
Than these sort of spiral thoughts. I mean, I don't know. I've always been someone that I've never been diagnosed with anything, and I'm cool with that. I'm fine. But I've always been someone that I have a lot of thoughts on a lot of things, and yeah, it can get busy in there. It helps, I guess, sometimes when when you're creating, but there is that flip side, that shadow side of it being, it can stop me from doing stuff. Because if I'm in a worried mood, if I'm in an anxious mood. I can definitely I won't want to be creative. I can't be creative until that thing is fixed. Yeah. So what can you prescribe me, doctor?
well, actually, on the platform that we've just released, the Felt Experience community, I'm just about to release a online course actually called Creating from Calmness, which is exactly about this. Is because when one is stressed, when one is anxious, your nervous system goes into fight, flight, freeze, fawn response. And from those places, creating is very hard. When you've got an activated nervous system, one of the first things that goes is the playfulness of the brain. because the brain just goes into a survival state. It goes, how can I survive this? And it usually employs these 4 different survival states, which is freeze, like, oh, I'm just going to stay here and not do anything until this passes. Fight, I'm going to lash out and try and beat whatever it is that's stressing me out. I'm going to fawn, where I'm just going to fall into people pleasing, and I'm just going to be small and let other people do what they want. Fourth one is flight. So it's just like, how can I get out of here immediately? You know, how can I just get myself out of this situation? So when you're in these 4 states,
And what are they again? Sorry, Barney. So they're fight, fawn,
fight, flight, fawn, or freeze.
Got you.
So when you're in any of these, like, creating is impossible, because like creating is inherently a calm activity, especially like something with words. This is like introspective. You're kind of going inwards. You're digging around, seeing what you find in your mind and your body. You're looking at your emotions, looking at these thoughts, connecting different neural pathways in the brain. Like, you can't do that when your heart's doing this. When you've got these thoughts coming up in your mind. So this is what the course is. It's a 12-week course that basically moves people in different stages. It helps them regulate the nervous system, gives them every week, it gives them both an empowerment tool, which is more like an inner work thing, like an inventory. How can they look at their problems and figure out what exactly is happening, and also creative prompts that are to do with each week's topic. How can you create glimmers and triggers, like inventory them and then turn those into artwork? So you have like visual representations, or, you know, a short story about this, and it's just about getting back into the flow of creating, because like you said earlier, it can be a bit like work. It is, you need to show up all the time and do it. If you want to be creating stuff, that's where you need to be. You need to be there creating stuff, otherwise you're not creating stuff, you know?
And there is that myth of the inspiration. It's a cliche kind of thing, like sitting around waiting for inspiration, but like every creative podcast, every creative book, and I've got a few to go through with you at the end. We've got a pile there that I've just picked off the shelf, but it is always talking about, you got to turn up and you got to kind of work at it. The craft. It's a craft at the end of the day.
And in the beginning, you kind of have to trick yourself into it, because the brain is used to doing things in patterns. So behavioral patterns, like your habits, inform what you will be doing. So if you habitually don't create, it's going to take a real effort in the beginning. It's a bit like going to the gym when you haven't been for 3 years. Like, it almost feels impossible in the beginning. You have to kind of trick yourself or push yourself to do it until it becomes, that's the new habit, and then you can enjoy the benefits.
Yeah, great. Do you know, that reminds me of there is a book on creativity. It might be called On Creativity. I can't remember what it's called actually, but it's John Cleese talking about. It's a really, really small book, and he just talks about how if you're going to be creative in whatever aspect, it's like in business, in one of the arts or whatever, you need to give yourself that time to be creative in, because you can't kind of, his theory, you can't be creative at the same time as answering emails or doing these other things. You need to kind of, if you want to have imaginative ideas and that, you need to silo that time to do that. Because it is very hard to kind of go from that. I mean, people talk about the left and the right side of the brain. I think that might be kind of a disproven thing these days. I'm not sure, but it's a great metaphor anyway, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
To go from one mode to another is difficult, and I totally get that. Especially when it's like I'm at work, and I'll be kind of, so I work in marketing and I'm kind of doing marketing, and it's on my lunch break I'll do like some creative stuff, and it can be hard to switch to that and then switch back as well, kind of, for sure. Yeah, interesting. And I guess like when we're talking about like the fight, flight, freeze and fawn, we're talking about people in that anxious or that kind of not defensive mode, but that kind of extreme mode. When you go back throughout history and you look at like the first cave paintings, I guess that was the first time really they had to kind of sit down when they didn't have to kind of fight off other tribes or fight the wild animals or whatever they were doing. I was going to
It
say
would have been
dinosaur.
hard to do that on the cave with a tiger like biting your leg.
Yeah, exactly.
You need a little bit of calm in order to
Yeah.
do
And
that.
of course, the Greeks, who did a lot of the arts and a lot of thinking, the philosophers and all of that, it was time that they were kind of, I guess, the upper echelons of society as well. So they had that time to be able to. They were just chilling all the time, really, weren't they? Chilling, so they had that time to think and didn't have to worry about.
Exactly.
And I think you can apply that to anything. If you're, for example, if you don't have the luxury of free time, because you might be, I don't know, a parent, or you might have a job that's like emergency services, or you work long hours or whatever, it's going to be hard to be able to kind of find that and justify that.
Which I think is why it's so important to try and bake it into your schedule.
Mm,
You have a time where you are at the most peaceful part of your day, whenever that is for you, like, and you commit to showing up, even if it's for 5 minutes per day. That's more than enough. Anyone who's a music teacher, a guitar teacher, will tell you that it's more important to spend 5 minutes per day than like 1 hour at the weekend and then nothing else. It's those small habitual steps where you show up is where you're going to kind of get that snowball effect of like, you can come to that point easier when you know that's the time you come up, you show up. And even if you make something really shit, like if you doodle for 5 minutes, that's being creative. Like if you write one haiku, beautiful. There's a haiku that did not exist before. And that's the whole thing, is like, how can you show up? How can you get into the habit of actually doing the work?
right. Like it a lot.
So you guys have been playing a lot, and you've been in the studio a lot, and you're also working a full-time job. You guys are about to go on tour. And I know you did a little skit about this on your Instagram recently, but how important is the physical mental health balance while you are out doing this stuff, you're out playing shows? How do you balance that?
I mean, it's very, very important, and it's way more important than kind of how we've treated it. They're important things to maintain for sure, and it's stuff that we're kind of working towards. But so let's talk about physical health. Yeah, 100%. If we're touring, so later on in May we've got like 14 dates at the minute, 10 or 11 of which are kind of back to back. So I got to make sure I get my stretches in before, and it sounds silly, but stretches in before and after, because it's very physical performance, and that's something that I don't do, that I've never really done, and I just ache afterwards, and it's foolish. But I'm not a runner. I do a lot of walking, and we do have a bike, like a what do you call it?
A training bike thing, yeah.
Yeah, like a spin bike. But I do try and get on as much as possible. But again, it's so easy to come up with excuses, and I am guilty of it. That is something, and for all of us, you're on stage every night, and you're driving all day, which is tiring. And the same with when you're singing, you've got your like vocal loading. So even all that stress throughout the day afterwards, then you're talking to. So there's like looking after the voice and all of that as well. I mean, when we went on tour last time, I didn't. Oh, I think maybe one night I had a drink, but I don't drink when I sing. Because I need to remember. There's a lot of lyrics to remember. And I've played many years ago. I had a few too many and went on stage, and never again. No. So I don't drink anything. The other guys have had maybe a couple, but so on tour I won't be drinking. I know that for a fact. I know that it just dries your throat out, and it just does me in. So vocally, physically, 100%, and mental health thing, big style, because we all get on with each other. We are great mates, but having all that confined time, especially when it's like it's confined time, but also there's a lot of sitting around doing nothing together as well. So you're kind of like the setting up and it is good to kind of find a bit of alone time. But the eating healthy is another big thing. It's something that we're looking at, about how we're going to maybe prepare some food before we go out on the road. That's a massive thing, because it's so easy when you're a musician and when you're touring. Go get a Ginster's pasty, right? You go get something that's instant, or a sandwich from a meal deal. Caffeine intake is another big thing as well, because you're kind of spiking, you're going up and down all day, and then you're going on stage and you're getting that. It's not a caffeinated high, is it? But it's an adrenal high. And then another thing talking about that is winding down afterwards, because you're like, okay, right, you're going on stage at what, not 9:30, 10 o'clock?
Mhm.
You come off 11 o'clock, say, talking to people, doing all that. Right, yeah, now you got to go to bed, and you're all kind of high, and you need to kind of try and simmer down after that kind of buzz.
Yeah.
Even if it was a bad gig, you're in your head. If you're me, you're going, oh, this won't mind, that won't mind. But the adrenaline thing as well, being able to regulate that, maybe, I don't know if that's the correct term for it, but through things like before you go on stage, kind of running up and down the stairs a bit, kind of getting a bit, working yourself up before you go on stage. Yeah, looking forward to the. We're really looking forward to it. But these are things that that are at the forefront of our minds, definitely, to kind of keep up that health, because it is something. I mean, it's not like the 70s. We're not kind of like chain smoking and drinking and doing all like it's. I don't know how they maintained it. I don't know how all those like rock and roll bands did it.
Not like how the Rolling Stones are still alive.
Well, yeah, let alone be able to go on stage and sing out and all that. But we're in a new generation anyway, and we look at it very differently, don't we? Looking after ourselves, but also at the end of the day, as we mentioned, been in many bands, and one of the bottom lines in the band is that we're not the ones there to kind of have a good time. We do have a good time on stage, but we're not there to kind of get this and that's the audience, what they're doing. We're there to put on a show and entertain, and that is the bottom line. We need to kind of do that before we can kind of let loose. And some of the guys have a couple of drinks before they go on and while they're on stage and stuff, because it loosens them up, and that's great. And we always joke that I'm kind of keeping a close eye and what number are you on, and I'll play up to that a bit as well. But
it's good someone's paying attention.
Yeah.
Okay, I got another question for you here.
Go for it.
Have you struggled at all with the inner critic, the judge in the mind that's judging what you're doing? Do you ever come off a stage and get stuck on like how things you wish would have been different, or when you're writing, is there a character in you that is like judging you and that you have to kind of like be aware of to not let it take over? Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So I can't remember where I read it ages ago, but it was a metaphor that stuck with me. When you're creating, when you're kind of a creative person, whatever, there's the wild man and the wise man, and kind of the. So, for example, let's talk about songwriting or a more introspective kind of thing. You should when in that creative mode, you should let the wild man out and keep the wise man at bay. Because if they're both, if you let the critic out, the wise man is the critic, obviously. If you let him out at the same time, you're not going to get anywhere, because you need to get through that first draft of whatever it is. So you let the wild man, and then come back in the morning, and then the wise man can kind of do his thing. That's kind of the ideal. And I'll mention Hemingway, because his thing wasn't that. His thing was write with wine, edit with coffee, or something like that. You know, that was his kind of theory. With this kind of inner critic, for sure. Yeah, all the time. And on stage as well. Yeah, it's one of those things that you need to kind of be able to shut that off. I have the fortune and the great pleasure of playing with other people on stage, and if it's going well, I think, and you can kind of catch each other, and you're kind of like, and Jules was good, he's like giving his nods and that, and like singing along, and kind of geeing each other up, and that's always good to kind of shut anything off like that. But I mean, the thing that I fear the most on stage is the talking, is the bits between the songs. Because the songs, it's like, yeah, mask up, rehearse this, know this, and if I fluff it, you know what, the music's playing.
Yeah,
I'm performing. You're in, that's the wild man, I guess, isn't it? You're letting that out. Then it's like, right, stop song, and then say something, and you're like, hi, are you having a good time? That's definitely how it used to be. And it's like, oh, you have to kind of pad, and so we've got it down to a thing of right, in the set, this is where you're talking, and then I'll kind of loosely rehearse some stuff, so there's something there that I'm a bit more confident with. And then now and again something might happen in the audience, or someone might shout something, and then you can kind of go off the cuff and go, oh, that kind of surprised me a little bit. But yeah, that's for me is it is definitely where the inner critic comes in.
Yeah. Mm. So that's interesting. It's more of the when you are vulnerable, when you are without
Yes.
the song, the music, the creation that you kind of proud of, you believe in, when that's kind of like gone and you're kind of left alone to kind of like, that's when it comes out the most and is most
Exactly.
challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what the Emperor's New Clothes. That's when everyone realizes the trousers on. You need to keep that facade up. I've got better over time, for sure.
No, I remember back in college, it was, you could see you were uncomfortable, that it was like a point of like, can we just finish tuning now so we can play the next one? Come on, guys.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. And I guess going to kind of see other bands throughout the years and years of seeing bands of the same level, kind of, kind of, we're all amateur bands, and just sometimes seeing people crash and burn on that, and just being like, my heart goes out to you, man. Like, they're just kind of people waffling and all of that. And I've been that guy as well, because that's what, and saying certain things or going for the cliches, and you're like, oh, play the song.
Yeah, I've definitely insulted a couple people on stage.
By accident. You're like, we're having a good time.
Because that
was your shtick, but that, what I recall, that was kind of your on stage kind of persona anyway. There was a humour to the kind of music you were singing, My Ding-a-Ling and Octopus. And there was also, I think between that, there was almost like a stand-up kind of, routine-ish.
It came mostly from nervousness of like, kind of trying to fill the void. And I remember a few times that's worked to my benefit. I don't remember, maybe it was the year before you came to college actually, but I was playing at the Roadmender in Northampton, and between the songs I was waffling a bit, and then it ended with me leading the whole audience on a rendition of In the Air Tonight, Phil Collins, and I got this whole audience to be singing along, and I remember being there like, singing and looking at these people in the eyes and thinking, how did I get here? Almost like this blindness of when it takes over, of like, oh, I need to fill the silence with something. And sometimes it works out great because they had a good time. And sometimes I insult people. So,
shame on you.
Inadvertently.
It is. And it's, I guess, there's a craft in that in itself, isn't there? And a creativeness with that. And I guess as a musician, you kind of, that's the bit you don't focus on until you need to. And you go, oh, actually, what am I going to say? So I remember on the last tour we did, which was, it was either the last tour or it was actually one of the shows last year. I think it was Bearded Theory or Boomtown, whichever one. I remember being in the car with other Tom Mackrell, and the other guy, and he's going, right, what have you got planned to say? And I'm writing all this stuff out, going, right, this is what I'm going to say. And he looked at me and went, too much. The idea is go, you don't need to say all of that. Hit these key points. And he was right. So hit these key points and kind of, so then I'd like, okay, yeah, so hello, make sure you say hello. Having a good time, all that. Merch stand, and then a couple of kind of playful things there. But you're going, well, that's not the art, that's not the thing, and it's not, and that's why some people aren't very good at it, I guess. So sometimes some people it comes naturally.
Yeah, but like you say, it's not something you rehearse. You rehearse the songs until they are tight.
Yeah.
Unless you're standing in front of the bathroom mirror practicing your talking points, it doesn't
get
glossed over, Can you feel where it has been important in your creative process and your creative career to show up with courage? How has courage played a role in getting to where you are now with like a successful band, several albums, all sorts of different projects? Do you find courage has to play a role in what you're doing?
Maybe yes. Keep it ambiguous for you. Maybe I've never thought of it like courage before. I've never thought of that. I kind of go in with like a blind, like naivety of blind, delusional kind of thing, I guess. And but courage, maybe that's another word for courage. I don't know. Getting on stage, it takes courage, sure, to get on stage in front of people. 100%. And I guess it takes courage to kind of put pen to paper sometimes as well. Some of the songs, some of the things I write are kind of can be personal. A lot of it, like I said, if it is personal, it's wrapped up in other things.
Yeah.
Other kind of metaphors or whatever. I guess.
Let me reframe it, because like the definition of courage is action despite fear.
Okay, then yes.
Action in the face of fear. So like with that, like how often do you run into fear but decide to do the thing anyway, whether it's write as something personal, whether to release the music, all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, every time you release something, you're putting it out into the world and you're at risk of criticism. You're at risk of kind of people saying it was rubbish or I don't like it or whatever. And if you go on, we've had I say about playing that. We've had some of that, we've had that people online, people want to say that what they want to say in the comment section, and that's cool, that's fine. We also have a lot of people say a lot of positive things, and that kind of way kind of tips the scales in that respect, which is good. If it was the other way around, we'd probably have to have a word with ourselves about what we're doing. But there's always a risk to doing that. But what's the alternative? The alternative is not to release anything, and then what? And then you're going to be regretful. So I think the risk is always worth the risk. Personally, it's always been worth the risk to do that. Have I ever come up against any fear to kind of maybe not fear in an extreme way, not fear, but certainly. I mean, going on stage, nervous energy for sure. You're always nervous about. Because I got my in-ears monitors now, so they're wireless monitor, and there's been plenty of time when they don't work, or something, or batteries drop out, or so. There's always something. There's always technical things that might go wrong, and there's always a worry about that. It's from the way I'm going on, you're probably thinking like, my God, how does he even get out of bed? But there is, but that's the thrill of it, isn't it? The thrill is that anything can happen. And you're going out there with a purpose. Maybe that's kind of a thing to kind of wrap it up with. The fact that the creative, it makes me feel like I've got a purpose. I'm not a religious person. I don't have kids. And kind of the job I do, I like the people I work with, and my day job and everything like that. But for me, that's not kind of deep down the career that I deep want to do. Everyone I work with know that. They know what I want to be doing. Being creative in all of these ways makes me feel like there's purpose there. My end goal would be a career in kind of in the creative, whatever the creative arts, to make money from being creative. And again, there's eternal things there of going, the art versus the commerce and all of that. We try and subvert the norm in everything I do. We try and subvert the norm, or kind of embrace the chaos, or kind of keep that weird thread, because that's what I'm into. I'm into the macabre and the dead birds, and all of that kind of stuff. Keep that, but be true to myself in that respect, and not kind of like sell out or whatever you want to call it. But equally, I like to entertain people, and I like to make people laugh, and I like big bright colors and dressing up and all this kind of thing, and kind of marriage of the two. And if I could have if my purpose is to kind of do that and kind of make people happy from doing that, and then that's great, isn't it? Yeah.
Is there a particular dream you have of like 5-10 years in the future of how your career looks? You want to share that?
Yes, for sure. I mean, I know that the music industry, it's foolish to think that you're going to be making a living on the music industry. However, that's why I do a lot of the other writing. That's why I'm kind of writing some short stories, writing plays, and doing it. And again, all of those things on their own kind of sound mad. But my dream would be the band kind of gets to a position where we can kind of say goodbye to our day jobs, or at least we can drop down a few days and we can kind of solely focus on that, which means more time for the creative aspect. But for me, it would be wearing a few hats, spinning a couple of plates, creative writing side. Got ideas for short stories, novels, all of that kind of thing, and plays, like I keep saying, short films, all of that, and at the same time doing the music side as well and doing the touring. So that would be in 5 years' time. That would be amazing. I And we're really, really fortunate. I'm going to put a few shout outs here as well before we wrap up, to the people that we've worked with, particularly for this album, but building up to that as well. So the album Mondo Maleficum came out at the end of January. This is the plug.
I'm going to put it up here, right here. You're going
to translucent blood red vinyl. We're immensely proud. It's the biggest creative achievement that that me personally, and I think I'll speak for the guys as well because they've kind of shared that we've kind of got an album. We've worked with people like Alexander St. Odd, a friend of mine from Cardiff, who's an artist who designed the outfits for us. Here we go, the suit, which is based upon Zipper Totec, who was the god of rebirth, and they call him the flayed god because he used to like skin his victims and wear their skin. He was great, but also he was the god of like rebirth and nature at the same time, which I love. So we've got these kind of veins and things going down. He's got this big Aztec kind of collar, and he kind of helped design a lot of that stuff. We've got Saul Knight, who's done all our music videos for this. We've worked with him since he was a student. Fantastic guy.
At last we fall in love, at last we're free to fall in love. At last we fall in love.
All of your videos are so great. They're really awesome.
Thank you. That's a collective creative experience as well. Like sitting down in a room with Tom. What are we going to do? And I'll be honest, when we came up with those videos, I was kind of a creative dry spell almost, because I think I was spending a lot of time doing the other bits that weren't band, other writing and stuff, and we had Faux Hex and stuff, and it kind of came to it, and I thought, I usually get really excited about coming up with the ideas for this, because what's great about being in a band is that it's not just the music, it's not just a lot, like it's the writing of the music and the playing and the live show, but also you get to the music videos, which is like filmmaking, and you get to do the art, plan the artwork, which is kind of art, and you get to the writing, the lyrics are like writing, and there's all of those different aspects, and the clothes and fashion and all that. And I was a bit dry there, and Tom came in and was like throwing ideas out, and it kind of helped rejuvenate and get ideas flowing. But yeah, thank you very much. That's Saul Knight, Phil Leach, who stars in the Wheel of the Spade, the Stars in Motion, the Man in the Wheelchair, the Mystic. He's a great guy as well. And Dave Sawsins, our photographer, who's been taking our photos since almost day one. Good friend of ours, comes to all the shows. We couldn't do it without him really as well, to get all of those great press shots. So we've got a great team around us, and that's just some of them. That's not all of them, It's great, and it also, it's something that I'm interested in filmmaking. I've spoken to Saul before, and he said, "Oh, if you ever put a short film together, tap me up, and we'll have a look at that and see if we." So it's always networking, just making friends, isn't it? Networking is just making friends.
Yeah.
That happen to be quite useful in the future, maybe. Yeah, it's a wild ride. But we're having a good time with it, and I've got a few. Can I recommend before we wrap up? I keep saying before we wrap up. I've got a few book recommendations that I want to show you, and you're probably aware of some of these, Brian. You may be with the creative side. Still Like an Artist, Austin Kleon. Have you come across that one before?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, there's I think I've got 3 of his in the same series. Really, really good. The Art of Creative Thinking by Rod Judkins. That's another one to recommend. Think Like an Artist by Will Gompert. So I think this guy is, I'm going to read it off the back, aren't I? I think he's the Guardian, or was the Guardian, kind of art critic. Hegarty's pretty good. Hegarty on creativity. Ad guy, I think he set up one of the biggest ad companies there is, and then he's written some really kind of cool, interesting books. And a lot of these are just full of, what's great is there are loads of short kind of stories and short ideas. It's not long form. Paul Arden writes some good stuff. This Is Whatever You Think the Opposite. That's great. When Everyone Zigs, Zag, get out of it. And that's stuff that I've not looked at these books for a while, but I had a flick through before we sat down tonight, and a few things came back to me. Really good. This is a couple more Rod Judkins again. Rod Judkins, who did one of those other ones, 57 Ways to Unlock Your Creative Self and Ideas Are Your Only Currency. He's a good guy that writes on that, and the John Cleese one's a good one as well.
Yeah.
Yes, actually, there's another really good one that I've not finished yet. In fact, there's two here, two new ones. 300 Arguments by Sarah Manguso, and it's almost like poetry. It's like literally little thoughts. And some of them you're like, oh yeah, I've thought about that, and some of them you're like, oh, that's a yes, I've thought about that before. I've not really been able to articulate it, and I've been just going through it, and there's some great little gems that you can kind of build on and think about. 300 Arguments, that is, and Heart of the Original by Steve Aylett, which has got a press quote on the back from Alan Moore. Very nutty guy, and he's talking about how to be original. Is there such thing as originality anymore? But also, if you are so original, if you're so you could completely create something that is in no relation to anything else, and doesn't follow that kind of familiar family tree of inspiration, and kind of people can draw back to it, then people aren't going to be interested. That's why when you look back in the past, certain bands or certain artists, maybe they were ahead of their time because they suddenly just leapt out and they didn't have that lineage of people going, oh yeah, that reminds me of that reminds me of that. So you kind of looked at that kind of thing. Fascinating. Yeah, really interesting. Stay curious is what I say.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the recommendations. And
no worries.
Just lastly, if anyone is curious about Erotic Secrets of Pompeii, or about you, or about the work you're doing, where should they go to find out more?
Yeah, so Erotic Secrets of Pompeii. So yeah, we're a 5-piece Bristol art rock band. You can find us on www.eroticsecretsofpompeii.com, believe it or not. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on all those places. Faux Hex, the other side project me and Tom do, which is more electronic and loads of experimental kind of wordplay things, chopping up different plays, putting things together. That's good fun. And we work with a lot of other collaborators in the Bristol scene. The Faux Hex can be found Facebook, Instagram, Bandcamp. We've got an album coming out next month for that. Not a physical one, but we're kind of collating all the singles, so that's coming out new for that. And then for me, you find me on Instagram. We're Tom Pay, THOMPEIA, so Pompeii but TH. I'm also on Twitter, and I dabble a little bit in there. I mean, I mainly do but now and again I put up a story about something I'm writing, and that'll end up. And to tell you what, sometimes you end up writing loads of a lot of the stuff I've got in my notebook I can kind of use for the posts. There's so much stuff there, right? Creative. I know. It's non-stop, but it is good fun. It is good fun.
Well, Tom, thank you so much for coming and speaking to me today. I'm going to put links to all your stuff everywhere in the description here, and
good man. Thank you.
Good luck with the tour next week, and
thank you.
Exciting things that you got planned in the summer. I hope it's going to be awesome.
Cheers, Barney. Thank you for the time, mate. Appreciate it.
See you soon, my friend.